And welcome back to the Pouncer AI Freelancer Education Series. I'm your host, Jerod Morris. I'm here once again with Pouncer AI founder and CEO, Sean Jackson. Sean, great to be here with you again,
Always.
doing this series. Been a lot of fun so far, given a lot of education. Really excited to continue it. So let's do it. We just in our last edition, we talked about strategic job selection. So there's so many jobs out there. How do you go through those, figure out which are the best ones for you? And then obviously, once you do that and you find the jobs that look good, you want to maximize your success rate. You want to get as many of those jobs as possible, knowing that you won't get them all, but how do you get as many as you can? And so let me start with, I think, an obvious first question. What is a good success rate for proposals? Like, what should people be shooting for or expecting?
Yes, that's then again, I hate to sound like the consultant that says it depends, but on average, what you're hoping to do is close up anywhere from 3 to 7% of all the proposals you send out. That's what you want to close, meaning you want to acquire that work. Okay. 3 to 7 is a very good benchmark. The variance is based on the fact of whether you're doing really small jobs, very complex jobs, but you want to be shooting for 3 to 7. You want about a 20% open rate where people are getting those opportunities. And if you're doing, the strategies that we talk about, that 20% should be able to translate into, let's say, a 5% win rate because, most of the time, the hardest part is getting the client to contact you. And if you're doing your job right, they contact you, you should be able to close them up. So 3 to 7% of all proposals sent and shooting for 20% of your proposals to be open. It sounds like a high bar, and it varies because it depends on the type of work you're going after. If you're going after really big jobs, like we talked about in the last one, where there's very large jobs, very complex jobs, your percentage closing may be very small, but the dollar value of those jobs is so high, less versus small jobs where, you may be getting a lot higher, conversion numbers simply because they're small jobs. They're 3, 4, 5 hours tops.
Man, I mean, that does sound low. I mean, it sounds like you really do have to kind of steel yourself, have some resolve to understand that the majority of what you're going to put out there may not even get opened. You're going to be told no a lot, but you've just got to keep going and kind of playing the numbers game, finding the right fit, optimizing your proposals to keep getting better. But you do, I think it does underscore the fact that you can't get discouraged, especially early on, if you're not seeing the success that you want, because there is a lot of competition out there, but you can continue to refine your process as we're going to talk about here and hopefully increase that rate over time.
That's right. The one thing that you can take away from this particular video, Upwork is an absolute numbers game. Okay. You are competing worldwide with 18 million people. A certain percentage will be on at any one point in time. A lot of talent, a lot of skills, and you have to be sending out a lot of proposals. I mean, this is, again, it's a numbers game. Okay. Our tool and what we teach is how to improve those percentages. But, again, we're still talking on the margins from 5% to 6%, from 5% to 7%, not from 5% to 50%.
Right. Okay. So what are some additional tips, some additional things people should be thinking about when it comes? They've kind of got the basics covered. Now, what are some next level tips people can do to help increase that conversion rate?
Yeah, so let's go through, and I found this is a job again, based on the fact that we built mobile apps out there. This would absolutely be a job that we would be applying for. So I'm going to talk about our thinking and how we would go after this particular job. First off, this is obviously a well-regarded client on Upwork. That's amazing. That's awesome. Generally, I don't care about this and at our stage because I can screen clients pretty well. But this is like, okay, this client's got some money and they definitely are someone who's a player out there. Now we look at the project description, right? So again, back to the previous video, is it small, large, complex? Is it vague? Is it specific? They have a pretty specific thing that they're looking to get done. They're taking the time to outline, here's the things that we are looking for, right? And then what we see for testing. So this is not a small job. It is definitely complex, and they have some pretty tight turnarounds that they're looking for. And this is also a good sign for us. Their fixed price of $5,000, I'm just telling you, is low. But as we've talked about in previous ones, Clients don't know how much something costs, so ignore what they put out there because it changes once they get engaged with you. So I'm looking at this one saying, this is a good job. Look at the past video we did about how to identify what a good job is. All right, so now I want to go after this particular job. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply with PouncerAI. Obviously, if you don't have PouncerAI, you don't have to, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use our own tool to go in and take a look at this particular job and what it's going to take for us to get a hold of it. All right, so I've got my templates up here. Now, my general approach is that I'm going to be looking at this after I've kind of reviewed the job information. I'm going to be like, look, this is a fairly unique thing that they need done. And I'm probably going to stick in this middle column here of approach, questions, or skills. Generally, I always like to ask questions about a project. And the reason is that one of the complaints that clients have is, freelancers don't take the time to read my job description. Well, how do you prove that you read the job description? Yeah, ask questions. So I tend to use this one quite a bit on complex jobs because it shows that I'm engaged. Now, because I'm using Pouncer, it knows that we've done different things in this space already. So all of the information about me, I've got a nice little, intro line, which is hugely important. I've got my questions that come out through here. And by the way, these are questions a developer would ask. What specific telemetry fields will the WebSocket binary data stream include? You want to know how good we could be? That's actually a valid question. And secondly, it's a complex technical question. Okay. And then, of course, we show other projects that we have done, which are related to this one particular one with Vulcan, because it is in a similar type of category space. I think they would appreciate the work that we did. So I've just gone through there and I went through and I said, okay, I've got my basic structure. Now, one of the things in Pouncer that we built in is this analyze proposal. Are there ways to make it better? Okay, so what we do is we take the end output, compare it to the job information, and then we give it a score between 0 and 10, 10 being absolutely perfect, which you'll never get. Now, this one is an 8 out of 10. Okay, so I'm going to call this a good B plus, maybe an A minus. All right. This will walk you through some improvements to the cover letter to help you be more aligned with what they're looking for. So for instance, we didn't include our experience with Mapbox and 3D models. That's actually something we have, but it's not in our profile data. We have relevant skills. I think they're going to get that. And then more immediate engagement. Again, his proposal, a brief initial approach or a solution to the project. I think those are, something that you, the human, needs to think about, because do I really want to go into that much detail? But as the score indicates, overall, the proposal is compelling, but adding these elements can make it even better. So maybe I want to go back in and say, you know what, let me talk about my Mapbox or 3D modeling stuff so I could add it into here based on that analysis, so I can just quickly get in and say, here's what I've got. Let me modify it, right? Let me go change what this text is to include that information in there. So that's just one way of making it something that is worth the client reading about, especially on a project like this, where I'm just going to tell you, my gut instinct is that this is not a $5,000 project. This is a $20,000, $25,000. At least that's where we would price it out to do it right. And because it's so complex, we're going to have multiple milestones, et cetera. So that cover letter was generated in here. And then the rest of this stuff, this is where, again, just, PouncerAI just, these are the same questions. By the way, these questions, Upwork, provides an interface for the client. So I'm just going to go through this real quick. You can go back to the screen and just show you. I mean, I'm just, what's your GitHub repo? Good. Boom. There it is. You can take a look at it, and what is the frameworks you have worked with? Got it. I'll just go in. And this is just, again, just letting the AI pull this data in so that it just fills in the blanks for you. But now I've got it. I want my cover letter adjusted. I've got all the questions. I'll review those real quick just to make sure. But then we're going to get into this. Now, this causes a lot of heartburn for our freelancers. What should I bid? You know, what should I be putting in here? Now, again, in our free training course of the community, I talk a lot about this, but I'm going to give you, this is why I love this particular job. This is a complex job. There's not a lot of people that can do it. Okay. Notice that to make sure that my cover letter proposal is in first place, it's 20 connects. Okay. At 15 cents each, it ain't cheap per se, but just to apply to this, I have to put in, essentially 4 connects. Excuse me, no, not 4 connects, 9 connects. Okay. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking, well, if I just apply to this thing, if I just spend a couple of more pennies, I could be in the top space, Now, in this case, it'll be an extra $1.50, but, if I wanted to go after 20 connects, that's $3, right? Versus, 10 connects, which is $1.50. So should I have boost this thing? Absolutely, I will boost it. Not even a question, because I'm thinking this is a $20,000 project. It cost me $3 to have my proposal in first spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the equivalent of someone coming to you, Jerod, and saying, "Hey, Jerod, I got a $20,000 project. Would you buy me a cup of coffee so I could talk to you about it?" And you'd be like, "No, I have to go to Starbucks. I have to buy you a coffee. I have to spend an hour talking to you. Oh, this is terrible."
Yeah.
So I often find that when I'm looking at these jobs and going after them, I want to be able to go in and says required for proposal 21 connects. So why wouldn't you? I just picked it up there. This is the problem with doing these live. I have to be on the spot here. This is nothing. I mean, seriously, this is a cup of coffee to talk to somebody who wants to build a fairly complex app that we actually have some expertise in. So I would actually go above sometimes. There's been occasions where I will go and say, I don't want anyone else touching this job. I'm going to put in, $10, $20, $30 worth of connects. Now, freelancers are going to be like, Sean, why are you doing this? Well, because I'm looking at a job that's $20,000. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, and again, and we've covered this topic in previous lessons. You've got to think about the psychology of the person on the other side, right? And it really shows your seriousness when you do that. I think I want to go back to something that you said earlier with the question example, that really complex question that you had with terms that I can't even repeat. I couldn't even repeat if I tried. But I think it's interesting if you ask a complex question like that, you think about the psychology of the client looking at it, right? A complex question isn't just about kind of showing off. It does show your authority, but I think what it can do to a potential client is say, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. What else does this person know? How much could they help us in ways that we're not even thinking about? That's very intriguing to me. And so those questions, they can really serve multiple purposes, especially for these, complex jobs that have a pretty high upside and you're maybe competing against other high-end people. Those are some ways that you can set yourself apart.
Exactly. Because remember, the whole purpose of your proposal is to get them to contact you. Okay.
Right.
And when we walk through the series about structuring, the very first one in this intermediate series where I talk about structuring it, this is the engagement portion. This is where you grab their attention. Okay. Yes. The first 2 sentences, you can't, they won't even contact you unless the first 2 sentences compels them to at least learn more about you. But then when you come in with questions and you're hitting them, then they're going to be saying, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Holy cow. These are pretty intelligent questions. And that's how you show your expertise, right?
Yep.
The difference between the experts is when they're asking really intelligent questions, because you're looking at it going, I had no idea. That's a good point. This person is obviously smarter about this subject than I am. They must be an expert versus, hey, give me your documentation and I'll build this for you.
Right.
Really? So I think that when we look at, how do we move these percentages? Boosting is going to be a part of that. Some jobs we will not boost at all. We'll just, apply because of the timing wise. Others where we know we are a perfect fit and we know the value is there, we will not only buy the first slot, we will overbid everybody else. I'm going to force anyone else to compete with me to come in and spend a lot more than I do. Because even if they do, I'm still going to be in those top 4. and I'm going to have such a compelling first line that says, I love this idea and I have built something just like this before.
Yeah.
You put that into your first sentence, they will open up that cover letter. They have to, if they are serious about hiring someone.
Yep. All right, as we come to the end of this particular lesson, is there anything else? Is there anything about the timing of when you submit a proposal? Is there anything from an A/B testing standpoint that you can do? Because here, we're talking about making improvements at the margins. Like what other little things can people do that might add up
Sure.
over time?
So I will tell you, if you are a serious freelancer on Upwork, you're going to be sending anywhere from 5 to 10 proposals a day. I know that sounds high, but that's what the pros do. And so when you're sending out that much volume, right, anywhere from 25 to 50 proposals a week, let's say, you're going to be A/B testing different approaches, right? You're going to be taking those templates that I showed you, you're going to be tweaking them, you're going to be crafting them, you're going to be experimenting with new hooks, the very first lines, right? You're going to be writing some AI prompts that maybe, you're going to experiment with. So the reason that you do that is because each one, you'll start to notice patterns by creating up different templates, and you'll start to gravitate them. When we built PouncerAI internally, when this was really the way that we used it to close business, it was not uncommon for me to have at least 10 different templates a month with variations. So for instance, if we were going after a certain type of project that required Bluetooth, we had a very specific type of proposal for that versus I need an app. Okay. So as we come in and we start to look at the types of jobs, we would have different templates approaches to really nail it, to really fine tune that messaging. And so we would use AI in certain little places, but in other places, we just use canned text so that template was a combination of AI and text, and it just was fine-tuned. And then when you find something that's working, you just got to send it out, because at the end of the day, as we started this conversation, it's a numbers game, okay?
Yep.
This job that I was just looking at, I guarantee you in a couple of days from now, it's going to be in hundreds of connects. I mean, anyone who knows what they're doing is going to look at this job and be like, yeah, this is a big project, and it's worth paying $20, $30, $40, $50 to submit a proposal for, which I know freelancers are like, oh my gosh. But again, if I asked you to go to Starbucks to talk to me about a project, you would spend more than that on fuel, on coffee, and on time, with no necessarily guarantee that they're going to hire you anyway.
That's right. That is right. Well, again, the goal here is, once you've identified the jobs that you really want to go after, how do you improve your conversion rate? And I'll tell you, Sean, one other way to do it, one way that compounds over time as you start to have projects and have successful projects, is build a winning project portfolio. And in our next edition, the last one in our intermediate series of the PouncerAI Freelancer Education Series, we're going to talk about some more advanced strategies for how you build a winning project portfolio that will once again help you improve your conversion rate. That's coming up in our next lesson.